Live from the Bay Area's news stations, this is KRON 4 News Weekend.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our second live hour of KRON 4 News Weekend. Good morning. Good to see you.
Yes, it is good to see me, isn't it?
Close by. Marty Gonzalez is off this morning. He's probably putting back having his... You miss him, but you didn't miss me.
Because you're here. So we're going to learn about... This is a remarkable report card, basically. It's a report card on the various companies that you deal with every day on topics from desserts, gasoline, banking, and a man has done all the research on which of these companies are responsible economically, ecologically. He lists them, he names names. You can, and he's got an iPod version. Take this to the store.
I know.
And look at it.
How small that is.
Yeah, look, and you can say, oh yeah, I'm buying peanut butter and jelly. I'm buying the Kettle Foods and not the Peter Pan.
Uh-oh.
So, I hope they're not a sponsor. Well, if they are, they'll just have to live with it.
That's the way it goes. We're going to go look at the better shopping guide that Henry's talking about at the top of the hour.
Yeah, we're not talking about consumer reports here. We're going to be talking to Ellis Jones, who spent a long time coming up with a report card to find the best merchants, the best products, not just for you, but for the rest of the world as well. That's coming up on KRON 4 News Weekend. Welcome back, KRON 4 News Weekend. Always nice to be back here with you. So the book is called The Better World Shopping Guide. It's by Ellis Jones. A small little book, something you can put in your pocket. In fact, you can even put it in your iPod, because there's also an iPod version of it. And take it with you and take a look at which merchants are best to use, which products are best to use, based on a number of different criteria. Ellis Jones is a lecturer in sociology at UC Davis, created the book. What are your criteria for your lists here?
Well, what I wanted to do with the book is create a kind of big picture of what these companies are doing in the world. So I tried to take all the available information to consumers from over 25 different sources, public, private, and governmental sources, and put them in one database to come up with a single grade for these companies. It includes everything from the environment to human rights to animal protection, community involvement, and social justice issues.
So this would, not to demean it, but this would be sort of the politically correct, and I say that in the best sense of the word, guide to various companies.
Yeah, I think about it in some ways very much like...
I'm sorry, I know it's a terrible term, but you know, it used to mean something. Politically correct used to mean something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and what it is I just think people are not aware of what kind of impacts that their purchases are having. In many ways, I think of every dollar as a vote. And this is our new voice. In the new world, we're no longer citizens. We're citizen consumers. And, and economics is in such a powerful position now that each dollar we spend is really a vote for the world we want to see and has impacts just as real as voting at the ballot box.
Now, one of the keys in here, there's a list of basically the most important decisions that you make, okay? So, for example, I believe it's banking is the single most important decision you make. And can you give us an example of what the differences are in banking?
This is a really good one. I think most of us utilize our banks every day. We think about the money as staying in the banks and being there for when we go to the ATM. But in reality, these banks are investing your money in projects across the planet to create everything from, you know, either the next tree replanting project, or the next community development project, to the next environmental destructive Three Gorges Dam or nuclear power plant.
Right. So in the book, for example, we have this list here, and the list literally says, you know, here's a list of 4 or 5 banks that you could probably end up using online on the Shore Bank, Chittenden, Wainwright, never heard of them, and then local credit unions down below. And then at the very bottom is a Diners Club and Citibank. And Citibank is listed as one of your corporate villains, I believe. It's one of the most interesting things going through the book is he's got the corporate heroes, the ones that are the best, and the corporate villains, the ones that are the worst, and you find out what they're actually doing. in a case like this, how could you possibly use a shore bank?
Well, a number of these banks, internet banking has really taken off. A number of these banks have websites that are very useful, and you can do most of your banking, and they give you credits for using the ATM machine, so you don't have to pay those exorbitant fees.
And you think local credit unions are also better than
Local credit unions are a great alternative for people that want to keep that local banking part involved with their bank, but these major banks are often involved in all kinds of projects that are environmentally or socially problematic.
Okay, gasoline you've got as the second most important decision that you make. Do you remember offhand? I'm just looking. Oh, here it is, quickly. Now, you've got Sunoco. Sunoco gets an A as being somebody you ought to use, and then BP, Amoco, and Arco. And then Amoco, for example, does solar power manufacturing, works with Amnesty International, and has a good ethical ranking. Exxon Mobil is at the bottom of the list. Why?
Well, Exxon Mobil is a really interesting example. In some ways, they almost broke the scale in my research for how much this destruction is happening due to their particular practices. And as a side note, they are the most profitable corporation in the world 3 years running. In many cases, because none of this stops them from making profit. And so, what I found was the petroleum industry is inherently destructive and a very bad industry. So even BP Amoco has many bad things about them. But the difference between those companies at the top and the ones at the bottom are so vast that it's really important that people learn about these practices so that they can say, you know what, I'm not going to support Exxon Mobil and all of the destructive practices that are going on with that company. I'd rather support BP Amoco, which I think even recently just said that they're no longer going to be involved in political campaign contributions, which takes a lot of integrity.
But I also believe that they fired their president or something because they weren't happy with their profits, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, still.
Okay, now, along the lines of what's important, the important ones here, beer. You've got the list for beer, and New Belgium and Sierra Nevada are right at the top. Wonderful, and Pete's is close to the top. And then near the bottom is Pabst Blue Ribbon, darn my favorite, Henry Weinhardt, and Foster's.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, Australian, or is it Australian? So what's the difference in these beer companies?
Well, there's a vast difference. First of all, I don't think it's the Foster's company themselves in this case that's the problem. The problem is that the Foster's we get in the U.S. goes through a larger corporation which creates a lot of those other beers called Altria, which is the other name for Philip Morris, the new name. And Altria has purchased Kraft and so forth, and they are one of the worst. They're on my top 10 list for worst companies, environmentally and socially speaking. And the difference with them versus a Sierra Nevada or a New Belgium, those companies are creating all kinds of projects to be environmentally friendly, to go carbon neutral, to recycle all their waste. They're just amazing.
Okay. The book is called The Better World Shopping Guide. It's actually a pretty good browse, I might add. And Ellis is going to be at Cody's Books on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. The Cody's Books in San Francisco on Stockton Street, codysbooks.com for more information. Ellis has a website with a lot of this information on it, I believe.
Yeah, in fact, you can go up and look up a lot of this data online to see for yourself what the data was that was used.
BetterWorldShopper.com. BetterWorldShopper. Oh, I'm sorry. .org.
.org.
BetterWorldShopper.org. BetterWorldShopper.org. Thank you. It's fascinating book. Really enjoyed looking at it. And by the way, there is an iPod version that you can download for a few bucks as well. Is this available like on bookstore?
It should be available at any bookstore, and you can always buy it off the website as well. Shipping is free, and the price is just the same.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And now, a truly ecologically sound friend of mine.
I was just thinking about how small that is and how many wicked stories are in it. When you really read through, right?
Probably many stories that didn't quite make the cut in here. You'll have to do the voluminous version of the real stories.
Do you really think that there is a movement towards this? I mean, we're talking green, people are becoming more ecologically concerned. You think there's a movement?
I think there's a huge movement. In fact, I did my dissertation on what I call the social responsibility movement, which is people that are taking this seriously, and it is growing by the millions.
Very good. Well, we'll check back. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.